Hello everybody, we're responding to a CritFacts video today. Really the last CritFacts video that I'd kind of earmarked as something I wanted to respond to. You know, I became aware of the CritFacts channel, looked through some of the videos and was like, okay, I'll do that one, I could say something about blah, 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 blah. And this is the final one so far that I've been like, oh, I want to respond to this. So we're finally ticking this off. But of course, it wouldn't really be a CritFacts response video without starting off with a story about CritFacts. Now, I will start off on a positive note and say that I found out CritFacts is planning on doing a response to me, and it sounds like it will be an interesting response. Like basically, yeah, CritFacts was kind enough to basically explain what the general thrust of the response was going to be sort of about, and I was like, oh, actually, that sounds like an interesting thing. So I'm genuinely excited for that. And I'll also say that in that context, I had a decently kind of civil chat with CritFacts, and therefore I'm kind of a little bit reticent about what I'm going to do now, which is explain a story which I think evidences CritFacts being, you know, a little bit silly on Twitter. And admittedly, when I first wanted to talk about this, I was going to talk about it and kind of like really going in hard. Now it's just a little bit silly, I think. So I'm going to tell you this story, and I hope you will all enjoy it. So just a quick bit of context before I get into kind of reading the tweets directly. CritFacts had been saying to me for a while on Twitter, you know, you say all of this stuff, but the things you're saying cause harm. And then basically I'm just going to, and they said, I'll just give you more direct context, that I deny the link between the harm caused by what I'm saying and what I'm saying. So I say, I'm not denying the link. There may or may not be a link. So the point there is I actually do feel quite strongly that there isn't a link, but to be honest, that's kind of a hard thing to say, which is why I just said there may or may not be a link. But that's an appeal to consequence. It's a logical fallacy. That's, again, going back to quoting me. And there you can basically see me make my point. It's an appeal to consequence. So what's an appeal to consequence? It's when you say that the consequence of believing something will be bad, therefore we shouldn't believe it. And of course, you can see this in kind of religious arguments, or indeed you could say kind of meta-ethical arguments. People might say, well, if there's no objective standard for morality, then people will go out and do all sorts of evil, do all sorts of evil deeds. And the reality is, well, okay, but there either is or isn't an objective standard, and the truth of that claim isn't determined by the consequences of that claim. Ultimately, even if it's true that no objective moral standard means people will go out and start killing each other, that doesn't change the fact that it's perhaps true that there is no objective moral standard. And indeed, it would be very silly if there was somebody on the internet who was a very firm moral anti-realist. They believed that there was no true objective standard for morality, to follow that person round and be like, hey, the fact you're saying this stuff causes people to commit immoral acts. And of course, the only response they can give to that is, well, that may be the case, but that's irrelevant to the truth of the claim. And of course, if you want a slightly more hypothetical analogy, if somebody says that they're going to go out and commit some kind of horrendous act, if anybody says that 2 + 2 = 4, well, that's irrelevant to the truth of whether or not 2 + 2 = 4. So that's why I'm saying this is an appeal to consequence. It's a logical fallacy. It doesn't matter what harm is caused by a particular belief. What matters is that belief true or false? And then this person responds, you can't claim it's fallacious when the consequences are manifest. The link is undeniably there. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of what they said because it doesn't matter, but you'll notice the issue there, right? I'm saying that it's a fallacy because, so essentially a fallacy is when somebody argues that a particular fact should lead you to a particular conclusion. In this case, the particular fact being that talking about trans identity is harmful, and the conclusion it should lead you to is that you shouldn't talk about trans identity, which of course is nonsense because, again, the truth of something is not determined by whether or not it will cause negative consequences. So this person seems to be thinking that when I say it's fallacious, I'm saying that the link isn't there. But as I already explicitly said, I'm not denying the link. What I'm saying is that to appeal to the link, to say that I shouldn't be saying what I'm saying, is an appeal to consequence. So I say fallacy doesn't mean false. In other words, which is true. So a claim can be true, but it can also be fallacious. For example, if I'm in an argument and I say, this person picks his nose and eats it, that could well be a true statement, but it's fallacious if I'm using it as an ad hominem attack to imply you shouldn't take this person seriously. So yeah, a true statement can still be fallacious if it's being used to try to reach a kind of unjustified conclusion. And I say, it means logically incoherent. Saying you shouldn't believe something because it has bad consequences is logically incoherent. So I'm just kind of restating the point. And then CritFacts jumps in. Where the hell did you study logic? Because I've seen better curriculum in the bottom of crackerjack boxes. You claim to be defending the meaning of words, but you are not using these terms, such as fallacy, in the ways that anyone who knows what they're talking about uses them. Now, here's the thing. I have no idea what CritFacts thinks, how CritFacts thinks I'm using these words wrong. I literally have no idea. To be honest, I wish I would have asked CritFacts, like, what actually does fallacy mean then? Because apparently I'm using the word fallacy wrong, and I'm not sure. It's very weird, because yeah, I would say that statement, fallacy doesn't mean false, it means logically incoherent, which is the thing that CritFacts is responding to, and claims I don't know the meaning of words. That's unambiguously true. Fallacy doesn't mean false, it means logically incoherent. That's such a true statement that I have no idea how CritFacts could possibly be disagreeing with it. I mean, I literally just gave an example of something that would be both true but fallacious. And of course, there are many things which are false but not fallacious, because, it would still be logically coherent even if it's actually not true. For example, all elephants are pink, Nelly is an elephant, therefore Nelly is pink. That's not a fallacy. Indeed, actually, it's perfectly logically coherent. The issue is it's false. There's a false premise. Not all elephants are pink. But instead, I respond by saying, I mean, let's not forget that last time you tried to pull me up on this was the whole mental gymnastics thing, and that ended with you admitting you'd misunderstood. So now we need to do a very, very quick recap, but I would recommend right now that if you don't know all of this, you should go back and watch, I think it was my last response to CritFacts. I'll find which video it is and you will get a link to it now, and you should watch the intro to that video. Even if you've seen it, I think it would be worth refreshing your memory, because I'm going to give a very quick recap, which is that basically, CritFacts was talking about how people will often kind of dismiss any kind of nuanced response. When asked to define, it was about the whole define woman thing. Basically, that's what CritFacts said. And I kind of paused and said, that's one reason why I think the term mental gymnastics is kind of a term I don't like, because I often see people using it to describe any kind of nuanced thought. So then after having said that, CritFacts then at several points subsequent to this attributed to me a kind of particular definition of mental gymnastics that CritFacts thought was a completely stupid and incorrect definition. And the issue is, it wasn't a definition I had ever given. So I brought this up repeatedly with CritFacts, and eventually I made a video, the last video, the video that I just linked to, where I explained the whole situation, explained how CritFacts was misrepresenting me, and then CritFacts live tweeted a response. And basically, and I can't be bothered to find the exact tweet, but you'll actually see that CritFacts even admits to having made this tweet. CritFacts tweeted saying, hey, yeah, I guess maybe I misunderstood. Sorry about that, basically. And I'll also point out that, interestingly, CritFacts misunderstood me even on the same day that this discussion happened. CritFacts misunderstood me. Actually, no, sorry, not on the same day. Actually, almost a week earlier. Where, again, CritFacts and I were talking about, like, different gender-critical beliefs, which gender-critical beliefs might I condemn, and CritFacts presented to me a quote by Janice Raymond and said, do you agree with this quote by Janice Raymond? And then I said, in response to CritFacts bringing up this quote by Janice Raymond, transsexualism, as Raymond is describing it, is about medical transition, which is a material reality, and it's a material reality that one can make legitimate moral objections to. Pretty simple. And then CritFacts says, Raymond is a quack who has been laughed out of academia. He's also incredibly misogynistic and homophobic. He thinks bisexuality is made up. He thinks paedophilia is a sexual orientation. Why do you think he's a credible source here? Now, what you might notice is that CritFacts here thought that I was referring to Raymond Blanchard, who I guess is called Raymond Blanchard. I mean, I've only heard of him referred to as Ray Blanchard, but yeah, I'd assume it's short for Raymond. And of course, what you'll notice is that when I said Raymond, I was talking about Janice Raymond, the person who was just quoted at me. And here's the thing, obviously you could say it was just an honest mistake. And indeed it was just an honest mistake. And indeed CritFacts even admitted and said, hey, whoops, I made an honest mistake. So yeah, well done CritFacts. You made an honest mistake. You admitted to it. Fantastic. And again, if I were mean, I could say I think it was a particularly silly mistake to make. We were just talking about Janice Raymond. I would think it was kind of obvious that when I mentioned Raymond, I was talking about Janice Raymond. But whatever. CritFacts made a mistake. The point is, again, you have an example of CritFacts going off on this thing about, talking about how awful Ray Blanchard is, saying like, oh, Raymond, he's a quack. He's been laughed at by academia. He's misogynistic, homophobic, all this kind of stuff. Really going off on one about something I didn't even say. It's, again, quite obvious contextually. I wasn't talking about Ray Blanchard. I was talking about Janice Raymond. So you have, even just then, another example of CritFacts not really being able to understand the point I was making. And you would think at this point that this would, I don't know if I want to use this exact language, but humble CritFacts, like make CritFacts realize, hey, maybe next time you think you've really got me and you think that I've misunderstood a word or that I've said something really stupid, considering your track record, you might want to consider the possibility that you're the one who's misunderstood things, that you've misunderstood what I'm saying. So again, I'm not sure why CritFacts thinks that I'm wrong in my use of the word mental gymnastics here, but my instinct is to think it's just another example of CritFacts not understanding what I was saying. And that, of course, is why I said, and I'll read it again, I mean, let's not forget last time you tried to pull me up on this was the whole mental gymnastics thing, and that ended with you admitting you'd misunderstood. So what does CritFacts say? Oh yeah, you claimed that mental gymnastics was when too much nuance, and I conceded entirely to shut you the F up because it was irrelevant to the larger point that your entire MO is telling other cisgender people that what us trans people feel and think. So yeah, basically, I mean, the later point doesn't really matter, but you'll notice that, I mean, the key point there is, first of all, that CritFacts actually conceded just to make me be quiet, just to make me stop talking, which obviously, good job there, because now by admitting that, I'm here talking about it again. So, I don't know. But second of all, again, you'll notice CritFacts is repeating again this claim that my definition of mental gymnastics is too much nuance. Now, I want to stress this again. I have never defined mental gymnastics. Like, that's kind of the hilarious thing. CritFacts, like, 4 times now, has accused me of having an erroneous, nonsensical, and just bad definition of mental gymnastics. And that is 4 times more than I've ever even defined mental gymnastics. So it's quite impressive to have accused somebody of having a bad definition of a particular word 4 times more than they've actually even ever defined that word, which is to say 0 times. I've never given a definition of mental gymnastics, what I would consider to be mental gymnastics. And indeed, I think at this point, just because it's quite funny, I'm probably going to try my best to avoid ever giving a definition, because it's quite, it almost feels like it's right to be a running joke that I've been accused of having this incorrect definition of mental gymnastics so many times by CritFacts, and I have never defined mental gymnastics. Again, to basically summarize, the only thing I ever did was give an example of a definition or a way I see other people using the word, which I totally disagree with and think is the wrong way to use a word. And of course, yes, I said that people who use the word mental gymnastics to describe anything that's nuanced are wrong. So yeah, I find this quite funny, and I mean, the main substance of what I find very funny is that CritFacts has managed to be repeatedly wrong about my definition of mental gymnastics, which again, it's not surprising it's wrong because I've never given a definition of mental gymnastics, but CritFacts has managed to be repeatedly wrong about that and has managed to also admit to being wrong and then later on, now, retract that concession. So basically, like, CritFacts has managed to be kind of wrong twice. You would sort of think that usually when somebody says, like, you know, because obviously it does involve kind of having, you know, a bit of like humble pie, you know, kind of being like, you know, admitting you're wrong. And of course, you know, I've had to admit that I've been wrong on points before. And it's a hard thing to do. And of course, yeah, you do feel like when you're in an argument with someone and you have to say, actually, yeah, you know what, I was wrong, you were right. It kind of sucks to have to do. But CritFacts did that, and credit there. But apparently CritFacts, I guess maybe doing it once wasn't enough, because apparently CritFacts wants to basically say that I'm still wrong, which now means, well, I'm just going to make the point again that I never defined mental gymnastics. The definition that you think that I am using is literally the definition which I was rejecting and saying was a stupid definition. So now, CritFacts, you have to make this concession again. And I don't know why you would do that to yourself. Because, you know, I want you to, well, you know, I want you to do all right. I want you to actually kind of put your best foot forward. And it's just not so great when I have to start a video off by being like, oh, remember how I started off last video being like, oh yeah, CritFacts has repeatedly been wrong about this stuff. And now I have to come back and be like, oh, CritFacts admitted to being wrong about all that stuff from my last video. And again, CritFacts admits, you know, I can't be bothered to go back and find the tweet, but CritFacts even admits here to having admitted to being wrong. But I have to come back because CritFacts has now been like, actually, no, turns out that when I said that you were right and I was wrong, turns out that I didn't really believe that. So I have to be like, okay, so you're just going to retreat back to being wrong again? That's fine. I don't know why you would do that. But assuming that CritFacts has watched this, again, I will say I'm sorry that I had to start off with this, but it's just like, look, if I brought it up in the last video and now you're literally retracting your previous admission that you were wrong, I have to bring it up again in this video. There's just no way around it. But my advice would be, considering that now you really do have a track record for having misunderstood what I'm saying, and that's really clearly established now, when you do make this response to me, or again, kind of, it's not really like a response to me exactly, it's more like a kind of video essay on me, because I don't think it's actually responding to any of my specific videos. I think it's more just, well, yeah, I don't want to give any spoilers, but again, CritFacts kind of gave me a rough impression of what the video is going to be about, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be responding directly to any of my videos, but more like kind of responding to my entire sort of general presence on YouTube, which is actually something that I'm completely on board with. But if you're going to be doing that, you really do need to make sure, double check that you aren't misrepresenting or misunderstanding any of my positions, because you have done that repeatedly. And you know, if you're doubting yourself and you're like, oh wait, you know, am I, you know, if you start getting really excited, you're like, oh, I can't believe that King Critical said that really stupid thing, you know, totally misused the word fallacy, or totally misused the word mental gymnastics, or referenced Raymond Blanchard. If you're thinking any of that and you're getting really excited and you're about to be like, oh, I'm going to totally destroy King Critical, just that excitement you have, don't let it override the part of your body or the part of your brain that should be going, hold on a minute, have I maybe misunderstood what King Critical was saying here? And should I maybe actually clarify? And yeah, the good news is we talk in the DMs. So if you hit me a DM, say, hey, when you said this, what exactly did you mean? I will help you out. So yeah, there we go. That's my offer to you. Now, with that said, obviously I'm going to be responding to a CritFacts video. I'm going to try and be very charitable. I'm going to try and you know, interpret everything correctly. And yeah, of course, CritFacts, you know what, if I misrepresent you, you can, of course, be very quick to let me know. We'll see how much of this video there is to kind of respond to. I'm going into it totally blind. I'm very excited. The video is called Feminism versus Gender Ideology. And that's a promising title, isn't it? Because, of course, the entire idea of gender critical feminism is that feminism and gender ideology are contradictory forces. So assuming that this is going to be responding to that notion, it should be offering quite a meaningful and substantive objection to the kind of core premise of gender critical feminism. So I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are too. I hope you didn't kind of dislike this long intro. I assume if you clicked on this video wanting to see me kind of refute CritFacts, it doesn't bother you whether I'm refuting this video or just something else CritFacts has generally said. But yeah, if you were particularly excited for this video, well, you can watch that now. And of course, yes, there will be timestamps below. So I will let you know now when it's too late that if you didn't like all of this stuff and thought it was a complete waste of time, well, you could have just hit the timestamp below or hit the chapter thing below to get to the point of me actually responding to the video. Anyway, let's go.
An infographic that claims to be about the difference between gender-critical feminism and so-called gender ideology.
You may notice this is a different voice from other CritFacts videos, and that's simply because CritFacts gets different people to voice videos, and it also seems like actually the scripting for CritFacts is a somewhat collaborative process.
Feelings and gender stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are bad. I don't think that's a controversial statement.
But again, lots of trans-identified people do default to gender stereotypes as a way of validating their gender identity. So there is undeniably a way in which gender ideology, which basically means the position that trans identities are valid, does seem to accommodate gender stereotypes much more readily than the gender critical position, which is just, well, if you're a biological male, you're a man, if you're a biological female, you're a woman. There is no like sociological kind of like, well, if you fulfill the role of a woman, then you're a woman, or anything like that. So while I would say that, of course, I don't usually see gender ideology people specifically being like, hey, gender stereotypes are great, it's definitely true that their beliefs are a lot more accommodating to gender stereotypes than the gender critical position is.
Even gender criticals will tentatively agree that gender stereotypes are bad.
Yes. Wait, what? Yes, of course. You don't realize... This is supposed to be criticizing gender ideology. So of course, from a gender critical perspective, this is criticizing gender ideology. So of course, gender critical people would think gender stereotypes are bad.
Stereotypes are a combination of assumptions and oversimplified ideas about people that we use to anticipate what someone will be like. So when you use words by their academic definitions, you find that gender criticals are the ones pushing gender stereotypes.
Okay, I'm interested to see where this argument's going.
They assert that you can and should assume things about someone, how likely they are to commit violent crime, for example, based on their perceived sex.
What? Okay. So there are kind of two main issues with this argument. The first one is that while like I can understand lots of gender critical people are going to be radical feminists and therefore kind of like aware of like male violence as a reason to be concerned, that's not what the gender critical position is defined as. So there's a difference between like the gender critical position and people who happen to be gender critical. And indeed you could be completely gender critical and not believe there is anything that we could assume would be the case for males and females. But the other issue of this, and the massive issue of this, is that that's not a stereotype. It's not a stereotype to observe trends that are evidenced by actual statistics and to make predictions based upon those trends. That's not a stereotype. That seems like it should be really obvious. Indeed, I actually think the definition, let me see what the definition of stereotype actually was, because I can't quite remember. So the definition was assumptions and oversimplifications about groups projected onto individuals. Alright, so I would not really think that's a particularly good definition. I would say stereotypes, the main thing about them is they're part of kind of like a story or a narrative. You know, so I would say that stereotypes have a kind of specific narrative function, which I think that should kind of be mentioned here. Because if you're just like observing basic, again, like I say, actual trends that really do exist and making predictions based upon those trends, that's not a stereotype. But, you know, to an extent, I do think this is accurate. The main two things I think are oversimplification and projected onto individuals. So yes, if somebody said that I am violent because statistically males can be observed to be violent or more violent than women, that would be wrong. You could say, for example, I'm more likely to be violent because I'm a male and statistically males are more likely to be violent. That would be true. But saying I am violent, well, that's wrong. And of course, yeah, you could apply this to, again, there are all sorts of statistics. I don't really want to get into it because anything I bring up could be controversial, but there are statistics that may show any number of different demographics are more likely to do particular things. And saying those demographics are more likely to do those particular things, yes, that is accurate and true. And I mean, it literally is true. Of course, it's accurate to say that because certain demographics are more likely to do those different things, that they are more likely to do those different things. It's a truism. But if you said that, again, if we take the example of violent crime, say a particular demographic's more likely to do violent crime, to then call anybody within that demographic a violent criminal, that's when it's a stereotype. Yes, if a gender critical person did say that, that would be ridiculous. But the other thing there is the oversimplification. I think that's basically ignoring kind of the more sophisticated reasons why these stereotypes could be the case. So, for example, saying that, for example, black people in America are more likely to commit violent crimes, that may not be a stereotype. Again, I am aware that, like, in terms of how the data is collected, there's some debate about how true that is, but I'm not going to get into that. All I'm going to say is that if the data is accurate and can be trusted, which is a pretty big if, but if it can, then that's just describing the data, saying, well, black people are more likely to commit these crimes. But if you then oversimplified that to trying to argue that black people are just innately more violent, that's a stereotype. Whereas, of course, the more sophisticated thing of thinking, well, how can we explain this increased likelihood to commit violent crimes? Does poverty have something to do with it, for example? Spoiler alert, yes, it does. Then at that point, it's no longer a stereotype. So that's what makes it a stereotype. And of course, gender critical people, therefore, are not engaged in gender stereotypes when they simply point out that males are statistically more likely to engage in acts of violence. That's just true.
As for feelings, I'm not sure what the claim is.
It's that your feelings trump like biological reality. So your feeling of being a man trumps the reality that you're biologically female, or indeed that your feelings of being a woman trump the reality that you're biologically male. That's, I would assume, what it means.
People's feelings go against reality? In fact, people's feelings are just feelings. There are emotional responses to our internal and external states. They can be responding to misinformation maybe, but if I'm sad, my sadness is real. If I'm happy, that happiness is real, even if it turns out that the reason I was happy turned out to be something that I was wrong.
Yeah, okay, here's the thing. For example, let's talk about gender dysphoria. So for an analogy, let's say somebody is a biological male with gender dysphoria. It is true that they feel bad about being biologically male. It's true that they feel really bad about that, and that makes them feel sad, it makes them feel distressed and all that kind of stuff. What's not true is that they're therefore a woman, right? Like, that seems to be kind of obvious. And indeed, obviously, for example, if somebody's really poor, their feelings that they feel bad about being poor are real. That they therefore are in fact rich because they feel bad about being poor is not true. That's the issue of gender ideology. It basically says that because you feel bad about something, that thing therefore isn't true. Because you feel bad about being a man, you're therefore not a man. Because you feel bad about being a woman, you're therefore not a woman. That's the issue, and that's what doesn't really make any sense.
Wrong about. Demands pronouns.
I'm not sure what the sigh is, because I don't see how CritFacts could possibly disagree this is a part of gender ideology, but let's see. I mean, actually, you know what? I think I would to predict maybe the argument's going to be like, but everybody wants to be called by, their pronouns. Like, cis people also want to be called by their pronouns. Let's see.
Nobody is demanding pronouns because everyone is using them already in normal speech. The only thing people are doing now is making their pronouns conspicuous by putting them in social media bios, email signatures, and the...
Okay, so basically I want to stress this. Pronouns exist to describe reality like all words do, and therefore if you tell me a pronoun that does not cohere with reality, because it's not describing actual biological reality, so it's not really about demanding pronouns, although I do think demanding pronouns is an aspect of it, like this idea you have to use somebody's pronouns. The main issue, though, is I think that the pronouns are just inaccurate. But yeah, that's kind of what my take is on it.
And we all deserve to have the appropriate pronouns used as a sign of respect for our basic humanity.
Again, having people go along with an untrue claim. Look, basic humanity is like, I like you. You're a nice person, well, maybe that's not true actually, because you might not be a nice person, but you know, like being, well, respecting somebody as a human being. But it's not respecting somebody as a human being to say that the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth, right? Like, if you tell me that you're a Catholic, that's fine, you can believe that, but I'm not disrespecting you if I disagree with you when you tell me that the Pope is the vicar of Christ on earth. Similarly, I'm respecting you, I'm being kind to you, I respect you as a human being, but if you tell me to say that you are a woman when you are in fact biologically male, then it's not disrespecting you for me to disagree with that. You know, it's not disrespecting somebody to disagree with a claim about reality that person makes, even if the claim is true, by the way. Like, if I say that the Earth is a globe, then a flat earther isn't disrespecting me if they disagree, even though they're wrong. It's not disrespectful. Yeah, truth claims aren't to be respected. They're to be ruthlessly interrogated and kind of analyzed for whether or not they're correct. So yeah, it's not about just respecting somebody.
Transphobic cis women overwhelmingly get upsetty spaghetti if you accidentally call her him, and transphobic cis men overwhelmingly get angry and smash beer cans on their foreheads if you accidentally call them she.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's true, and I've made a video about this before, and I think that one of the underlying reasons for that is actually sexism. I think that the reason why men hate the idea of being referred to as women is because a lot of men are subconsciously, and sometimes not so subconsciously, misogynistic. So yeah, I made a video about that before, and you can check it out if you like, except for the fact that I won't be able to link it because I've already linked another video so far, but maybe I'll leave it in the description.
Why is it an exceptional burden when trans people want to have their identities equally respected that same way?
Again, I mean, it's really not any more of a burden, it's just not true. That's my take on it. So yeah, I think like the demands pronouns thing, I mean, again, I should stress, I've got no stake in defending this infographic. It might well be complete nonsense. And to be fair, I'm actually interested in what like the kind of feminist counter to demanding pronouns is. Like, use whatever pronouns you like. That would seem to be the opposite. I don't know. So I'm not sure what the flip side is going to be. Indeed, actually, I will say that CritFacts missed a trick here, because you could say that gender critical people do sort of demand pronouns, in that I think that there is a correct, like, the funny thing is, the use whatever pronouns you like is actually something which, you know, a kind of genderqueer, gender fluid persons like to use. Like, I know trans-identified people who have he, she, they, anything in their pronouns. Like, they're happy for you to refer to them anyway, which is far less demanding than me, who would say, well, you can refer to me however you like, but the only accurate way to refer to me is as a man, he, him. So you could say, in terms of like, like gender critical people believing there is a reality to pronouns, gender critical people maybe demand pronouns, in that we would say, well, you should believe in reality and there is a right and wrong way to refer to somebody with reference to whether they're a man or woman. Now, obviously, the main difference I would say is that trans-identified people kind of believe more that pronouns should be enforced through kind of like authority, like you know, law, and like the internet should enforce it. There are certainly, I think, a lot of trans-identified people who would love to see me get my channel taken down if I use the wrong pronouns to refer to somebody. Whereas gender-critical people, more their authority is reality. That, I would say, is the main difference between trans-identified people and gender-critical people.
Punishment for misgendering. Money/prison.
Yes, that's true. And indeed, I mean, you could say, for example, for me, like, cancelling is a monetary punishment for misgendering. You know, the fact that if I don't misgender people on this channel, because I think that would be maybe a bit more of a risk. And yeah, if I did, I could maybe get my channel taken down, and then that would actually hurt me financially. So that's definitely a monetary punishment for misgendering. But of course, yeah, in the UK, you can actually go to prison for misgendering somebody. And I think lots of trans-identified people would like that to be more reliably enforced.
No, not for accidental misgendering. I don't think I've ever seen...
That's irrelevant. You're saying, no, not for accident. Well, yeah, sure. Not, if that's an irrelevant point, okay.
Anyone actually advocate prison sentences or fines for misgendering in and of itself?
Well, again, I should point out that the monetary punishment, cancelling, would be included in that. Like, but okay, the reality is that people do go to prison for misgendering in the UK, and indeed, Well, actually, you know what? See, the Canada thing again, I don't really know about it. That is something I could look into more. But like I've heard that you could get in trouble for it. It was quite a strict law. I'm not really sure about it, so I'd have to find out.
Women's spaces for anyone who feels as a woman.
Again, that's surely got to be considered true, right? I don't know why there's that groaning. Surely, like, the correct response is just yes, that's what we believe, right? Surely.
Trans women should have access to women's spaces. Yes, because they're women, okay?
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you agree with it. I don't know why. Yeah. Like. So it's accurately representing your beliefs.
Sex-segregated public spaces are separated on a voluntary basis. It's purely cultural. Because again,
something being purely cultural doesn't determine whether or not it's voluntary, right? You understand that? Like, loads of things are cultural, but not voluntary. I don't even need to give an example. It's just so obvious that's true.
Against sex-based rights?
Okay, I'm interested in this one.
Who thinks people's rights should be different based on sex? That's
me. Like, there are certain things that biological females are going to experience that biological males won't, and therefore biological females might need rights that relate to that. For example, biological females need the right to abortion. So that's an example of a right which should vary depending on sex. I mean, obviously, you could, if you're going to be a massive pedant? Why did I say that? Pedant. Say that biological males have the right to abortion. They just can't use it. But again, the point is, should biological males have the right to abortion? Well, no, not really. It's irrelevant. Should biological females have the right to abortion? Yes, definitely. So yeah, like, rights do vary based on sex.
There are no rights which should be applied differently to anyone by their legal sex.
First of all, you arbitrarily just said legal sex, even though, like, legal sex is some made-up thing, right? So yeah, I don't know. Like, you're kind of just changing the argument there. And the thing is, like, it's not even as if you changed the argument to some kind of effect. You just changed it for some reason.
Seriously. It is used to either justify intersex erasure, normalize intersex genital mutilation, or even simply forcibly out intersex people.
Well, again, the thing is, that's an example of how something's been used in the past, but that doesn't make sex-based rights in and of themselves bad. That seems pretty obvious. But again, the thing is, you're kind of admitting here then that you don't think there should be sex-based rights. So I wasn't really expecting you to say that. I was expecting you to be like, well, of course, biological females, because only biological females can get pregnant, should have sex-based rights. I don't know. That's kind of what I was genuinely thinking. I wasn't expecting you to go down the route of being like, no, we don't need sex-based rights because biological males and biological females are exactly the same.
People can be born in the wrong body. Born in the wrong body is a shorthand way of explaining dysphoria. It's a little more complicated than being born in the wrong body, but it's f***ing real, and has been accepted as real by medical professionals.
No. Okay, look, gender dysphoria is real. Characterizing that as having been born in the wrong body is not real. Because in that case, you're saying, look, dysphoria isn't accurate. That's the point. Of course dysphoria is real. Of course, dysphoria is very harmful and, like a really horrible thing. What dysphoria is not is correct. That feeling that you have, which causes you huge amounts of distress, that says you were born in the wrong body, that's a horrible, terrible thing, and I wouldn't wish it upon anyone, especially as somebody who suffers from mental health issues myself. The one thing I can say with confidence, that feeling is correct about you or about your body. And I firmly believe that, and I think it's really objectionable to me for somebody to say that dysphoria is correct, that feeling that says you were born in the wrong body, that feeling is correct. Yes, dysphoria is 100% real. It's not correct, though.
We don't choose what illnesses we get, but if you have a flu and someone asks what's wrong, the response isn't, oh no, this is the right illness for me right now.
But you are saying the illness is right. Yeah. By saying that you are in fact born in the wrong, by saying that the idea of having been born in the wrong body is even by any interpretation accurate, And obviously you're saying, well, it's not fully explaining it. It's more complicated than that, but you seem to be implying it's in principle accurate. You are saying that your dysphoria is right. So yeah, you're the one saying the illness is right. You understand that, right? Like, I'm saying, no, the illness is wrong, your body is right. You're saying, no, the illness is right, my body is wrong. So, yeah, bad analogy.
Like, if I get my hair dyed, it's not because my natural hair color is wrong. I just felt like mixing it up.
There's like two main issues with this. The first thing is you are conflating something incredibly kind of benign with something which can actually be harmful. And even like, even people who advocate for trans rights will admit that there are quite serious potential side effects to medical transition. But whatever, okay, fine. The other issue to bear in mind, though, is that there's a difference between saying that you want to get your hair dyed versus saying that your natural hair color is blonde, if you're brunette, for example. Yeah, like, I'm not saying that a biological male can't change their body to be an imitation of a biological female. What I'm saying is that biological male can't claim to be a biological female. Or indeed, by extension, a woman. That's my position.
Don't ask, just believe.
Well, that's definitely... Well, okay, don't ask, just believe. If you ask the most non-sensitive questions in the most kind of polite, trying not to offend way possible, you can get away with it. But if you ask any kind of like question that really actually challenges trans identity, then you're going to be in trouble.
Perfectly reasonable to ask about some things. You could ask me my favorite ice cream flavor. I tell you it's vanilla. Are you going to...
So, I mean, there we go. That's an example. Yeah, sure, you can ask a question that's completely benign, but what about, like completely innocent or whatever else, but what else?
Believe me or go around telling people, actually, CritFacts doesn't really like vanilla ice cream, they like chocolate. It's equally ridiculous to say that about someone's sexuality or gender, as GCs frequently do.
No, it's not. Look, the thing is, okay, this is the difference. Okay, if I ask you, what's your favorite ice cream, and you say vanilla, and then you point to an ice cream cone with chocolate in it, and I say, wait, is that your favorite ice cream? And you say, yes, this is my favorite ice cream, vanilla. And I say, that's not vanilla, it's chocolate. And then you say, no, I'm saying it's vanilla. And you can't disagree with me about my reality. In my reality, it's vanilla. And then I say, well, I'm sorry, the reality is it's chocolate. And then you say, well, how do you define chocolate? You've got some great definition for chocolate, do you? Well, why is my understanding of it being vanilla not equally valid or whatever? And then eventually I just give up and walk away and say, person's favorite ice cream is chocolate. That would be a more accurate analogy. If I say to you, are you a woman? Oh, sorry. If I say to you, are you a man or a woman? And you say, I'm a woman. And then you're very obviously biologically male. Well, that's, as far as I'm concerned, equivalent to you saying that your favorite ice cream is vanilla while pointing at a triple chocolate fudge ice cream or whatever. Yeah.
Early May of 2021, GCs took to Twitter to tell actor and activist David Paisley that he's bisexual because he is attracted to cis and trans men. Paisley describes himself as gay because he's attracted to men. That's his self-assessment.
Well, again, this is the exact same thing, yeah. If I tell you that I'm straight, but then I'm having sex with biological males, it's perfectly legitimate to say that's... Again, I actually think sexuality is complicated, so, I think whatever, but basically... I don't think, it's not wrong to say that people can be wrong, because people can be wrong. And by the way, like, there are other examples. Like, I know people who will say like that they are Christian, but then they don't believe in God, or people who will say that, that's an obvious thing. Like, people will claim, and in the UK, that's like a whole thing. There's literally a movement in the UK to get more people to put down atheist in the government census, because loads of people put down Christian for like kind of because of a cultural association with it, but they're not in any meaningful sense Christian. And that's why I think Richard Dawkins and some other people have been like, no, if you don't believe in God, and you're not religious, you don't go to church, you don't believe in Christianity, you don't believe in the Bible or anything else, say you're an atheist. Be honest. That was literally a campaign to tell people to stop lying about themselves and actually accurately describe themselves. And it was a perfectly reasonable campaign to do. I'd be interested to know what CritFacts thinks about that. Do you think that campaign was wrong? Do you think it was wrong for the various people in the UK, various movements in the UK, to say stop describing yourself as Christian in a census if you don't believe in God, you don't believe that Jesus was like the Son of God, you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in heaven and hell, stop calling yourself Christian. If you don't believe in God and you don't have any religious belief, say you're secular or an atheist. As far as I'm concerned, that was a perfectly legitimate campaign. And so therefore, people can be incorrect about themselves.
Hashtag HiDaveByDave was, I won't say trending, but they were trying really hard. And why? The entire point was to frame him as an unreliable narrator of his own sexuality and to demand that he adopt their framework when describing.
Why did those evil atheists insist that people who don't believe in God describe themselves as atheists instead of Christians? Why were they trying to get people to deny their reality? Because people can be wrong about their reality.
His own sexuality, which is ridiculous because if you're a man and you're attracted to cis men and trans men both, I'm bisexual gives a very wrong impression that you're into cis women. Just let people decide for themselves how to describe themselves. Jeez.
I do want to say, real quick, I kind of said sexuality is complicated, and I will reiterate that. I do think that it's like a bit kind of, if somebody, like I've kind of said before, that if I'm attracted to biological females, and also there are maybe some biological males who look so convincingly like biological females that I am attracted to them too, I think it's kind of stupid to say that makes me bisexual. That's my take. Now, again, I'm not saying that you can't disagree. You can think that I'm wrong. I'm not I don't think it's ridiculous to say that people can be wrong about their own descriptions of themselves. I think that's a very reasonable thing to say. But my personal take is that, if I see somebody who looks convincingly like a biological female and I'm like, I'm attracted to that person, and then you tell me, actually, that person's biologically male, but they just look convincingly enough like a biological female that you thought they were biologically female and were attracted to them, then calling me bisexual, as far as I'm concerned, is just kind of, I just think it's pointless. And that's kind of what I mean when I say sexuality is kind of complicated. At the end of the day, I don't really care. And if somebody wanted to say, like, I did actually have someone comment one time, be like, oh, actually, no, I think you are bisexual. And it's like, okay, you can think that, and that's okay. I just think that's kind of a silly way of understanding the word bisexual. That's my take. Hello, everybody. So I kind of knew going into this video that it was going to be 2 parts recorded in one session. So when I do that, it means that I kind of just end up cutting it in half at a kind of arbitrary point. And that's what I've done now. So this is the end of arbitrary point 1. And next time, I'm not sure when it will be, we'll get into the start of the next point. So I'll just say, if you enjoyed, please do like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff is really appreciated. And annoyingly, I just recorded my outro for the second stuff, and there was loads of stuff I mentioned in my outro for the second part, and I kind of want to mention it all now as well, but I won't. So just wait until the second part, because the outro there is a little bit more involved. There are a few other things I wanted to mention there, so get hyper for that. Apart from that, I guess, if you give on Patreon, it's really appreciated. It really helps this channel, and I'll just say thank you to my current patrons. In addition to the names scrolling past on your screen right now, I would like to give a special thanks to last month's patrons: Anthony, Diana, June, Space Jack, and Rachel. You're all very appreciated.